I'm doing a face mask, as you can see. And waking up slowly today, I've realized that it's not just being insomniac prone. I'm simply not adjusting to the time change. So I'll go to bed at like 2 or 3 a.m. and wake up at noon. And that would be a pretty normal sleep schedule in America right now. All right. So, as if it wasn't already enough that this group that I'm with at this art residency celebrated my birthday on the day of my birthday, they also celebrated it last night with a tort, like a berry tort of some kind. And our Italian hostess of this villa shared that the nature of making a birthday wish or lighting a candle, it's a ritual, and you're blowing out the light of the year that you've had, and then you relight the candle with the wish, basically, metaphorically, inside your heart for the coming year. So I did that in front of everybody. You know, I get performance anxiety, so I came up with my wish for my coming year, and I blew out my candle despite being put on the spot. Not like it's a hard thing to do. But anything that has to do with dreams and wishes just feels very, very personal. And so there's something that I like about what I've said before a little bit in the previous videos that I've been leaving from my time in Italy, which is like the randomness of the universe to bring you into alignment with certain people. Because a month ago, I didn't know any of them, and yet they are the people that I'm celebrating going into the final year of my 20s with. So let's see what I have so far. I've got 2 cards that have come out. 5 of Swords and the Queen of Wands. So the Queen of Wands we've had it a couple days in a row. Creativity and passion, yeah. I feel like today I need to devote a lot of myself to my work, because it can't all be fun and shopping, obviously. I'm here to paint. 5 of Swords. I'm not really getting much of a read off of this, so we'll get a clarifier. What are we looking to know with the 5 of Swords? Selfishness, tension, betrayal, and entitlement. We don't want that. Yeah, that's a clarification for that. Oh, okay. The 10 of Swords. Okay, so how I see this is 5 is half of 10, right? You could say that this is halfway along the journey to closing out the chapter that we must close out in order to more fully embody our sovereign, autonomous self and power. And by the chapter that we need to close out, I mean the changing of habits and things that we are engaging with that is self-limiting. More on that. Yeah, and there could be aspects of it that are uncomfortable. But I see the flaky pastry crust again, or like the cocoon that has many different layers. And as the butterfly breaks out of it, those layers kind of shell off in pieces, and it gives me energetically that like itchy feeling again. So I'm also hearing the word gaslight. So don't gaslight other people. Don't allow other people to gaslight you. Sometimes when you move in different ways than the people in your life around you are accustomed to seeing you move, you get clap back from them. Because sometimes our unhealthy patterns, they are actually functioning for other people in our lives. And sometimes those people don't know that they are relying, right, subconsciously on something that we do to enable something that they do or something that they feel. And when you move in a different orbit and a person in your life can't feel the thing that they rely on from you, it confuses them and it upsets the balance as it was. And it's not to say that that previous cycle or way of doing things needs to be reverted to in order to find peace. It's like you need to take time out and again do the act of scaling back to look at your role in situations and dynamics. And we can move through the growth pains by fixating, putting our consciousness into the future timeline. Because as you'll see, the troubled cards in this portion of the reading are swords. Stuck in the head, right? Stuck in the mind. And these cards, the ones of empowerment, these are wands. So I see a lot of the energy that's happening right now. It's almost like a division between the upper chakras and the lower chakras. And in order to move through big changes with grace and ease, you have to kind of sit in your lower three chakras and come back to the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus in order to remain like intact with the sense of self. I think that a lot of activity is happening, as I mentioned the throat chakra the other day, being able to refine and amplify the ways in which we express our truths. And that could be big truths or minor truths. For instance, if somebody, a waitress delivers you a plate of food and it's the wrong order, I think a shocking amount of people would feel too guilty to say anything about that. I don't know why I use that as an example. You should always feel like it's okay to speak up about whatever it is that you need to speak up about in your life. Okay, so the stability that we need during this time can be found by connecting with the root, sacral, and solar plexus chakras. And the clearing that's taking place in the third eye, the crown, and the throat chakra. Oh, beautiful. This is a card we haven't seen yet. The clearing is benefiting us during these changes because the new orbits, like I said before, if we're gonna start moving in new patterns and new ways, not doing things in a tired or stale manner anymore, infusing our habits and ideas and actions with a new energy, and therefore our lives with a new way of stepping and walking and taking up space in the world. The upper three and the lower three chakras merge in the heart space, which is why I talk about channeling. When I make artwork, that energy comes from the heart because it's the middle of the human body, or the center of the toroidal. I'm making a painting that has a toroidal sphere in it right now. I think that's what I'll work on today. To make this much simpler, we need to remain grounded right now. What's beautiful is that the Ten of Cups came out, and that's ultimate emotional fulfillment and peace and harmony. And the Two of Wands. More wands, right? Decisions, planning, strategy, options, things moving and shifting that can give way to a future that not only has the right, I've actually said this before in the past few days, not just the right things like how do your days look, moment to moment, how are you spending your time? Is that fulfilling for you? Do you like who you are as a person? But also who do you choose to have close in your world? Do you have loving relationships with the people around you and within your family? And how can you, if the answer is no, how can you create that for yourself? And it could be with your pets. I love this because I was just spending time with one of our villa kitties, and she's a little black cat. She's actually a tortoise, which has the different colors in it. What's an energy that can come in to simplify what is happening with the changes that have started to take place? This video actually will be short. It actually will be. Okay. Yeah, I think that people are really prone to overthinking things. And so what I'm looking for is the antidote to that right now. Because I don't think we can just sit back and do nothing at this time. I do think that it's going to require intention and energy and action, right? To do things differently. When water moves through the land, it over time carves through the land, and our behaviors do that in our life. That's why people use the expression stuck in a rut. Yeah, even like looking at the water meeting the rock, these formations, right? There's crevices and paths that have been traveled that are more entrenched than the others, and you can exert yourself to move in a new path. But it doesn't come without resistance. And so I asked, what can we do to not be, while we need to be assessing, strategizing, planning, and moving forward towards new lands, it's not enough just to sit and look out over them. What can we do to avoid overthinking? Because I think overthinking and self-judgment is what will happen when we're doing these new things, because we don't necessarily have a roadmap or a set of results from previous actions that indicate whether or not we're quote unquote on the right path. Am I doing this right? We don't have the evidence from our past experiences to show us the answer to that question, because it's new territory, and that's exciting, but it can be uncomfortable. So the Nine of Swords came out, and it's about regret and loss and self-judgment. But I do think too, in the card, right, these demons, these memories, this nightmare, it's not real. Those things are of her own mind. This is the haunted, disturbed contents of her mind as she is waking up from a nightmare. This plays interestingly with the things that I was saying the other day about how I spoke with some people about the waking life and the dream world being equally weighted. They're both experiences that a person has. But what I'm getting off of this is that there's enough going on in the mind right now with looking forward. Again, the flashlight and the projected ray of light, the future, the path we're going to walk. Cut yourself free of the things that you have regretted doing. You don't have to go to somebody or talk to somebody in order to make peace with the past if it involves somebody else. You can do that remotely and energetically. And that might look different for different people, and I don't really want to get into talking about that. But this has everything to do with, it's the Nine of Wands again. Just tired of seeing this card. We need to stop being so defensive against the changes that are happening in our lives. It's not that anything's wrong with us. It's just that we're ready for more. And by that logic, you could say maybe there is something wrong with the way that you've done things. But that's okay. Yeah, what have you been burying your face in your hands about? What have you not wanted to look at? This too has to do with, there's a lot of cards here actually, so I'll go through these. Well, there's only 3, but this also has to do with the act of surveying the landscape of the psyche in order to identify our patterns and therefore set ourselves free of the things, right? I see this fabric and it's like a tapestry, and you're kind of like pruning and clipping away the different patchworks of pieces of your, not identity, but life, world, both inner world and outer world. And you can't prune the outer world. You can't be like, I don't want you in my life anymore. Go, go. No, you make inner adjustments and the outer world will reflect that. So I believe that we're being confronted. Again, Knight of Swords isn't here, but it comes into my mind because of what I was talking about the other day with hard and harsh truths. Don't spend too much time there in that place of regret. In order to come out on top, Queen of Pentacles, ultimate stability, you have to lay down your burdens. Ten of Wands, right? we've got 10 of Swords and 10 of Wands. They're both signifying of the end, right? But then we have 10 of Cups too. So this is, you know, all the swords. No more lateral, is what I heard. No more movement, no more in that same vein. And again, I'm seeing the paths that water can travel. Rut. No more being stuck in a rut in whatever area of your life that can apply to. There's too much that has happened. What I'm getting, what I'm hearing is that on some level, we know right now that what we're doing isn't working for us, but it's like the fog analogy that I used the other day with driving the car, and if we can't see through the fog, it doesn't matter that it would only take 30 seconds to drive through it and that we're more than capable of doing that. It's the fear of the unknown, you know, and maybe these wands are magical and he could use them to cast his spells or whatever he needs to do, you know, strike up a campfire if he needs to make camp for the night on this journey. And so because of that, because they function for him, because there's utility in this sac à dos, le sac à dos, I think that means backpack in French. He's not willing to lay down his burden because on some level it is protection for him. He perceives his burdens as being a buffer between him and what he actually has to do in order to level up. And again, it's the idea that there's nothing wrong with us. It's just that life, Google Maps, has brought us to a juncture. And you can keep driving around in the same little circle and not go into the new land and the new territory. But what I said 3 days ago was the universe isn't going to let you keep going around in the same territory because there's a great big world out there. And I think what's happening for a lot of people right now is our souls and our subconsciouses and our spiritual experiences, they're already like in the new world, in the new life or way of thinking. And that's why there's so much that's pulling on us, because that energy is coming in and it's creating a sense of confusion about how we can take, well, how do I get there, right? Take what we have now and move gracefully and somewhat swiftly into a new way of being. Queen of Pentacles and Queen of Wands. Totally grounded, totally stable. And again, I'm seeing this root, sacral, solar plexus, chakra, solace. Fortify your sense of self, your body, with connecting with those energy centers. Because and this probably isn't like mechanically correct around energy and the way that energy is metabolized in the body through the chakras, but I'm seeing, you know, take it as a metaphor then, if you will, but the clearing that's taking place is happening in the upper chakras. And a lot of it has to do with the fulcrum of the heart space as well. So that was a little confusing, but you don't have to keep yourself stuck. You don't have to do things the same way. You don't have to, and here's, you know, 2 nines of regret, not being able to make sense of things either, and therefore wanting to keep things out, right? Wanting to, you know what I'm getting here is like, he's also up high as well, but he's not looking out over the new land. He's got his back turned to it and he's protecting himself from it. These are the wands that he's carrying around. This is giving Sisyphus vibes too. So like, yeah, There's work in life. You can't just drop your everything. Sisyphus can't just walk away from the boulder, right? That's his closed loop vacuum reality and world. You can't just skip into the sunset and go have ultimate peace and happiness. I understand that, and that's not what I'm implying. What it's about, though, is the precise burdens of the past that induce states of regret, the tired old pathways that have been trodden for too long. They are expired. It's not an abandonment of your life and your duties. It's a pattern interruption in a soul-led way. So it's like you from within want it. The universe wants it for you. What is the last piece of the puzzle? It's free will. It's free will. It's a choice. It's crazy because I look at the timer and it's like 13 minutes. And then I look up a second later and it's like 27 minutes. Hello, old friend. It's the Hanged Man, which also came out the other day. So clarification on the Hanged Man, please, because you have got to be kidding me. It's just crazy. Clarification for the Hanged Man was the Two of Pentacles, which also came out the other day. And I'm yet to show my sketch that has these, I made a doodle on the day that I pulled the other reading where I was like, wow, I drew these swirls that look just like her hair. Okay, but so weighing choice and decision materially, and what I'm getting off of that is like, in order to get ourselves unstuck, apply a new way of looking at the same old stuff. Each and every day, at each and every turn, in each and every moment, be like, could I respond differently to this time, in order to change the outcome? Choose to take a small deviation from the norm, because that small deviation can yield magnificent results. And I talked about this 3 days ago again. It's important as we move through the world and are creating a new chapter in our lives, to be in a state of simultaneous assessment and micro adjustment. So as you make changes and assess things on an ongoing basis, you don't just act and then never look back. You think about how, in a few days' time, in a few weeks' time, about what that did for you. Bigger perspective on the matter. It's also like self-reflection and self-awareness and being honest with the self, so that you can take accountability, right? If you are suspending yourself upside down, unable to move, perhaps you need to do that to look at things from a different angle from time to time. But don't forget that you're the one that is pulling this string, and that after you do that to assess, then you let yourself down and move forward. I don't mean let yourself down. I mean, release yourself from the analysis of it all. The Five of Cups. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Look at these three characters. There's a serious dejectedness. There's a lot of tough, heavy stuff being released in collective energies right now. And I'm also getting something about like the hot sun and what that does to the earth and what that does to the creatures of earth. And the sun is at its brightest this time of year, but then also comes, it's very windy outside today. So the winds and the rain, right? This rejuvenation. In the winter, the world is encrusted with a firmament, a firmness. And if there is a strong wind in the dead of winter, the ground will not be as disturbed because it's tough and it has a crust that encases things. And the elements can try to shape the land, but it's a different season, whereas this season, we're in Cancer season. It's water sign, emotionality, a lot of things flowing. If there's a huge gust of wind on the ground, sweeping across the ground in summer, things will fly, dust will move. It's motion. And that's why there's a lot of stuff coming up, right? Tilling the land of our own minds and hearts and souls. And what I'm getting off of the Emperor with this is like unapologetically so. It's not easy, but there is a massive strength in being along for the ride and one up from that, authoritative in these processes. I saw a little cartoon of like, you know, winds and rains and all these elements, and like somebody with this little cute little house and like flower pots and being like, let me help you with that, and like dumping out all their flower pots because that's what's going to happen anyway. But it's silly. You don't want to dump out your flower pots. But the idea with that little visual is that there is, you know, that soil in the bottom of each pot hasn't seen the light of day for a while. And the seasons of change are unearthing these things in our inner worlds and inner selves. And you can't tell the universe no on that. If you do, which I get the sense, and I think everybody's just guilty of this in minor ways, could be on a day-to-day basis, on a touch and go basis, or overall in the chapter right now. I think these cards that are indicative of kind of like deep suffering, that's what's happening when we're resistant. Those characters are the ones that said, I don't want to go anywhere new. I'm not going to strategize and plan. I like my rut. I like the way that water carves the path. But that's denial of the fact that that road is a cycle. Yeah, it goes in the same circle. 3 of Swords. So what I'm getting is that it's beyond disappointment, it's devastation. Perhaps some of the things that we need to admit to ourselves are truly devastating. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's interesting too, because whether or not we go there mentally, emotionally, spiritually to acknowledge certain things, take a new tack, an approach to things, whether or not we do, right? This is still there. So if you choose not to feel the devastation or process the emotions. It's still there, right? It still happened. Whatever that may mean. But when you look at it, then you can let it go. And you don't have to keep carrying it with you. And that's what you'd want in order to feel lighter. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting a lot of visuals and analogies and visions about circuitry and cycles and loops. Closed loops, right? Like Sisyphus. Plato's allegory of the cave, right? Say that Sisyphus could just put down that boulder and be like, you know what? Enough of this. This was fun while it lasted. That's how I feel about my job right now. I'm like, employment has been fun. I'm done. I'm gonna go frolic the world and no longer work, which I cannot do. That's unrealistic. But my energy and the seasons and the change and the cycles, I need to apply my creativity through and to my life in a different way, because I feel the stagnation and the staleness of the things that I've been doing. And I no longer want to orbit in the same way. My life ran up to me like a little golden retriever puppy and looked up at me and said, can we go outside? I have to pee. This is really silly analogies today, but I would never look down at that puppy and be like, no, go pee in the corner. I would take the dog outside, right? The puppy is cute. It's innocent. It comes up to you. It has to go outside. You answer that call. And puppies, they have very like spontaneous, doofy, uncoordinated energy. And I like the juxtaposition or the dichotomy of big life change, heavy stuff, the grand themes of life, juxtaposed with like little puppy, right? Lightness. It's asking of us to remove the veneer of seriousness from the things that are happening, because yes, there is devastation, there is loss, and there is challenge that comes with change. But we need to be able to alleviate some of that heaviness and be playful and light with the areas of contemplation that we can be playful and light in. The High Priestess, right? A deep... I wish the camera would focus on my cards a little bit better, but a deep knowing that you're being led somewhere, even if you don't know where you're being led, or a need to cultivate that type of trust and knowing in your own intuition. And I can also see this as like, I refer sometimes to the forces that be as like Lady Universe. That's her, the High Priestess. She knows what's up. She has foresight and insight into the secret forces that move the unseen things in the world, that act upon us and our lives. Clarification for that, please. Yeah, the King of Cups. Wow. Okay, so back to the golden retriever, right? I was talking about my job feeling stale for me, and me processing that, feeling that in my heart, in my mind, in my body, knowing that what would fix that feeling for me is to create, not quit my job and, abandon everything. Again, it comes down to like, you're not just going to frolic off into the sunset and abandon your life, right? But you take your power back as far as, what can I do? What can I change? For me, I want a more creative career with my art and my work. And so I'm going to be doing more of that in the time that I have to do that in order to rise to the challenge, trying to manifest a path forward where I can write more and more of my time in my life will revolve around that if I water it, right? Again, with tilling the land and the seeds. Which garden are you tending to? And so that was something that I was feeling, and then the puppy came up to me. So it's like these two things meet in the middle. Again, I'm seeing the upper chakras meeting in the heart space with the lower chakras, but sometimes you have to make the first move, but the universe will swoop in and catch you. I think it's from Lord of the Rings or maybe Harry Potter, but somebody jumps and then the bird or the big hippogriff or whatever it is swoops underneath and catches. That's the golden retriever as well. When you make a decision, when you are bold enough to acknowledge something for the first time, going back to the soil in the bottom of a flower pot that hasn't seen the light of day for a very long time, right? So these could be seriously fundamental things like core programming. If we were to look at it for my twisties, method of interpretation, it would be one of the core fundamental patterns, and to disrupt that rewrites everything that came after it because of how it's all connected. So instead of editing the narrative of how we see our lives and how we tell ourselves that things are, you have to let the things change that are going to change as a result of changing the things that we don't like. So say you pull out a thread from the bottom of the twisty, or the, it could be with macro or micro, it could be your whole identity, or it could be one part of your life. Say there's something foundational within that, and you upend that belief. You finally sit down and you're like, yeah, maybe I have a strong resistance or avoidance to blank. Or maybe I've been going about this the wrong way. What are the implications of that? You can't do that work at that foundational level and be like, but I'm going to leave the upper layers intact. I don't need to, I don't need to sift through all the implications. That is not viable. I heard cheating, but that's, I don't like that word. I don't like the energy of the word cheating. But the reason why I like the twisties is because they show in a physical, literal way that if you're going to go unravel, foundational core programs that have been operating in you and being expressed out of you, and this is a blameless, process, right? A lot of things that develop within our personalities, that's no fault of our own. It's how, the world shaped us. It's how we were raised. It's how you know, what karmically, it's why we ended up in that relationship or whatever it may be. Release any of that type of, and I said this the other day, like, it is not beneficial to be like, well, who's the biggest, baddest villain of them all? Whose fault was it? That's not what this time is for. Perhaps there were people that could be blamed for certain things. But what I said earlier is do that work of forgiving and making amends with yourself, your role in things, but also the role that others have played. Do it remotely, right? Do it in a meditative state of like the fifth dimensional like way that you can connect with people. I said this about the fact that I'm in Italy, but like I've got the internet, my phone's right here. I can text somebody in America like they're right, you know, I can connect with somebody's energy remotely. We can all do that. So do that in this process of retrieval, accurate retrieval of memories and things. Also what I'm getting, right, with the High Priestess, it's almost like, and I'm not going to pick all the cards up that had the dejected characters again, but like people were burying, the girl on the Nine of Swords, she's burying her face in her hands. She doesn't want to look, right? He doesn't want to look. We're trying to avoid. You're driving around in the fog, unwilling to look. The High Priestess is like, I don't care. If you don't want to look, you're going to see. And that is what can lead to this really intense emotion. I was going to say too, the reason why I like the twisties is because they show how on a, you know, real structural level, you can't pull out the bottom thread and have the top ones. That doesn't work like that. It's not structurally sound. It will all cave in and collapse. And that could be very well what is happening. We don't have tower energy, but it's not to say that it won't come out. The tower came out the other day, and I think that all of this cycle right now could be a tower for certain people's lives and situations. But the idea is that we go meet the universe, we move first, and it answers us, because that little fraction of a change of being proactive instead of reactionary right now at this point in our lives, that's going to affect like the next 10 years. I think how we act this summer is pivotal. And I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm just getting that. So, you know, take it or leave it, but justice is here as well. So I'm seeing like karmic scales too, and like true justice within all of that stuff, right? So perhaps our lives have ended up one way. Oh, and I'm going to read the High Priestess because I landed on the page, but perhaps our lives have ended up the way that they have. And it's been hard. Or you've been through a lot, or you've carried things for other people that you shouldn't have had to carry. It's time for a redemption from all of that. I think a lot of people would be like, that's just not possible, you know? But it is. And you have to suspend enough disbelief in order to let the universe show you how it is. Again, the land, the promised land, right? On the other side of the fog that has sunshine and rainbows and balloons. Or it could be a cool, quiet, dark room if that's your jam. Whatever that too good to be true thing is, it's right on the other side of fear and avoidance. The High Priestess represents wisdom and enlightenment. She is in between two worlds. I talked about that the other day with like, we're in between, we're in a liminal space. We're closing out and we're beginning. We're in the birth canal. She embodies the eternal feminine spirit. She is the guardian of the unconscious who guides us to look inward and listen to our own feelings and intuition. the subconscious, wisdom, anima, serenity, and mystery. Yeah, again, so like with that, like maybe we don't want to let ourselves have that childlike hope or belief in a better way of life. And if you don't believe, then you're not going to be able to get it, you know? And sometimes it's like, well, people feel foolish having the magical hope of a child because the world makes us cynical. I'm seeing the ground of winter again, right? We develop a frozen crust as time passes, because life has shown us again and again that if you are open and vulnerable and you allow for yourself to hope, that you're let down. But now it's summer and the ground is fresh and the wind is moving the dirt and all the flower pots are getting dumped out, and then the rain is going to come, and then the flowers are going to grow, and then the sun's going to come out, you know? So that firm crust, again, with the butterfly cocoon or the pastry dough, it's shelling off and it's flaking off. And I think some people right now may not like that feeling because there's this like nakedness, and it's like, but I needed that. Like that was my armor. That was my protection. Those were the reasons why I could get away with avoiding things. I'm also seeing a house of cards, right? For some reason, again, with the twisties, the foundational core programming, for some reason, one of the bottom ones got pulled out and it's toppling down. The Justice card reveals that an outcome will be determined from the decisions you have made. It is a reminder that future actions can be changed by the lessons you learn in the present. It is an indicator that a decision needs to be made. Truth, fairness, equality, and balance. Yeah, so with justice, with this time of transformation, it's what I said before about like having the courage to be, an active player in this time. Make choices consciously about what you're gonna do. Because to not do that, I see the House of Cards, you know, it will fall down, but the positions, chips may fall, phrase is coming into my mind. The chips will fall where they may, right? But if you get in there and you start to dictate where you want things to end up, that will yield results for you instead of letting everything be totally random right now. And yes, there's always going to be the mystery and the unknown, but the free will aspect of that is important to acknowledge, because a lot of people do either one of two things. They completely disempower themselves and they say, well, that's just how it is, or that can't be changed, or whatever. They give all their power away, or they hold on too tightly and they want to completely control every aspect. And there is this delicate little balance and sweet spot. And sometimes you have to oscillate back and forth across the two sides of the sweet spot to get closer and closer to embodying it most of the time, right? You kind of hop back and forth between like, okay, I'm controlling too much right now. How can I tell? Because I'm anxious and things aren't really working out, and I'm, you know, disappointed. If you're disappointed, then you have expectations, or you had them. If you were open to what may come, which is the other side of the coin, then you're not disappointed, because whatever comes, you accept. So a refinement of making that oscillation, making the waveform smaller so that you oscillate less and less. What's something that I can conclude this messaging with? That's too much. That's too many. Just one card would be cool. just one card would be cool. There it is. Five of Pentacles. Yeah, take care of yourself. Take care of others. I also forgot to actually talk about this King of Cups, but he is the result of having all of that crusted armor come off and flake away. And the process of being flaked apart is not comfortable. But it happened, and now he's been sitting in the sunshine like a little plant, photosynthesizing, letting the rays of the sun warm him, and realize that he doesn't need a thick armor, right? There's an openness and a receptivity to the light, to the positive things that are taking place at this time, because it's not all bad. There's a lot of, the whole reason why this is happening, and I should have said this far sooner, is because there's a really beautiful chapter dawning if we let it, be. If we let it be. And if we get excited about that and amplify it and say like, hey, I want to play along. I want to work with this. I want to choose justice. I want to be in the driver's seat of my own life. And actually what I just heard is that it's not playing along. I said, I want to play along. It's not playing along anymore. It's getting very real, but there's something incredibly liberating and freeing and empowering about getting real, because maybe you have to acknowledge some things that you don't want to. Why am I holding this? I can't believe it, right? Being brutally honest with yourself, being real. It's the same card that I used to talk about that specific message yesterday or the day before. And again, King of Cups is giving me heart chakra energy. So the processing, the clearing that's happening in the throat chakra, our ability to speak truth in a more candid way to ourselves and the people around us, to see things with more clarity, High Priestess, third eye energy, to dip into our psychic potentiality and allow the world to be deeply mysterious and allow the things that we see to mean something, right? If you see things in dreams, if you get visions, if you have any type of experience like that, to take that seriously, again, weighing the dream space with reality equally. And then the crown, connecting to something beyond the mundane of our humdrum lives. But the rootedness and the need to be anchored in the lower chakras, the heart, coming back to love, self-love, an ability to love and take care of other people as you're able to, as you're guided to. It's all going to go hand in hand, Whatever's going on in your life right now, just take a couple moments every single day. I mean, ideally, kind of all day, throughout the day, but to cultivate like a light in your heart space, a warmth, to sit in a positive emotion, to give yourself the gift of feeling connected to something that makes you feel good. Not in a vice, self-sabotage, denial type of way. A truly aligned, pure connection. Pentacles, Magician. Yeah, all right, to close out, I got the Knight of Pentacles and the Magician. So the Knight of Pentacles is the slowest moving knight, and he is very calculated. I quite like this card. I haven't really looked at it a whole lot, but I see this golden sphere as I see some of the halos around saints and angels in fresco paintings from the medieval times, which I'm like seeing a lot of as I'm in Italy, and seeing artwork right now. So it's like he is protected, right, by the golden light of God, has a halo, but he's a physical man in the physical world, material things. I also see a mirroring between his skull, the roundness of this, right, as above, so below. The sun is illuminating his path. And these lands, you see this, there's a tree and a field, again, connecting back to the earth metaphor that I was using, the tilling of the land. He's looking beyond that. He's looking into the future, right? This guy and this guy. They're looking out at the land. He's looking into the future. And being the slowest moving night, it's about taking baby steps. This is funny. I'm actually seeing there is a self-help book called The Empowerment Dynamic that I made a PowerPoint about and have presented multiple times for work reasons. And it's full of acronyms and dynamics, but how can I talk about this really briefly, really quickly? Okay, so there's something in the book called the dreaded drama triangle. There's interrelated dynamics, victim, persecutor, and rescuer. And the antidote roles to each one of those dreaded drama triangle roles is the mindset that you can shift into in order to correct the dysfunction and the corruption of that type of cycle that naturally emerges between humans in any capacity. So professional capacity or relational, personal, it just simply happens. And the idea is to become aware of it and to remedy it with conscious shifts of the mind and the perspective. And for each one of those roles, the dysfunctional ones and the antidote roles, there is a FISB, or a focus of orientation, a resulting internal state, and then a reaction based off of that. And why I'm mentioning this is that when you're in a victim mentality, your internal state will be somewhere between denial, depression, anxiety. You're not feeling good and empowered about the things that are happening in your life. It's always someone else's fault, blah, blah, blah. You can't do anything about it because they won't do anything about it. That leads to reactionary, impulsive behavior, whereas being in a creator mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna become engaged with the solution part of things. Again, my favorite Albert Einstein quote is, you cannot look in the same direction that you were looking in when a problem was created in order to solve it, or in order to see the solution. You have to pivot and look in a different direction. And so the resulting behavior, the FISB, right, for the antidote, so convoluted to like say all these analogies, and I'm sorry for that, but the focus when you're a creator, so you're not in a victim mentality anymore, you're a creator. The focus is the solution. You're looking into the sun. You're bold enough to let your eyes sear as you gaze directly at the problem. A lot of people don't even like making eye contact with other people because it makes them uncomfortable. So make eye contact with your own life. Make eye contact with your own situation. Make eye contact with your own truth. If you're focused on a solution, then your internal state will become passionate and motivated, right? And these guys, they're looking in a new direction. I said this before. He's also up at the tower, but he's focused on the problem. They're looking out to the future. And when you do that, you don't make reactionary, impulsive moves or gestures. You take baby steps. You take baby steps. We have a lot going on in our lives. And that's why I said you need to make conscious decisions, but also take time to assess what those are doing for you and have that feedback loop within your own processes and experiences with a level of candidness so that you can make micro adjustments and course correct. And with the Knight of Pentacles, what came out with this? It's the Magician. Manifest the world that you want. The Magician connects the spirit to the physical. He represents as above, so below, which is what I said about the Knight of Pentacles, and they came out together. He is the master of all 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water. He is telling you that you hold all the tools to manifest your desires into reality. Creativity, skill, focus, and desire are the forces he reveals to you in order to accomplish any goal. Totally. Creativity, skill, and focus, and desire. Okay, so I'm seeing a synergy between the elements and those domains and the suits of the tarot, right? Creativity, wands, fire, passion, tempered by skill and focus, discipline, earth, material, actually doing things, meeting the universe, not expecting for everything just to manifest around you, right? You take the first step. The universe will come meet you. And sometimes when it meets you, it brings in something that you don't expect, but you remain open, and then you go from there, right? If you don't like what comes back at you as a result of what you're doing, then you move a little bit more differently. So accomplishment, confidence, action, concentration is what I got. Yeah, also I just want to point out on the Magician card, you see there is a cup. So water, emotion, there is a sword, idea, thought, communication. There is a wand, that passion and creativity, and there's a pentacle, that stability and that discipline and that real practical application of these things. So bottom of the deck, 7 of Pentacles, which is just bringing home the idea that we do need to work on things. And by that, I mean concentration, focus, discipline, dedication. Yes, there's a planning and strategizing phase, but if they never come out of that phase, if they never come down from the tower, they'll never get to the lands. So he came down from the tower, and now he's on a long journey. He's taking baby steps to enact change in his life. All right, that's all I got.